You now are listening to the audio podcast of Prisoners of Hope, the antidote to what ails your heart. I'm your host, Dr. Debbora Whitson. So come on in, pull up a chair, and open up your mind as you get ready to receive the download that hope will bring. Well, hey, welcome to the Prisoners of Hope podcast. And I am your friendly conductor, Dr. D. And today I'm continuing a series speaking with the author of the book Dancing in Rain, Vanessa Daniels. Now, Vanessa is a life coach and she has a lot of knowledge. So buckle your seatbelts and lend your heart's ear. Things that are supposedly healthy, you could numb your pain because I did mine through exercise.
That
Okay,
too, yes.
let's do a
Or
20-mile hike.
yes, or work, people become workaholics.
Workaholics, right,
Or stay
right.
busy. All of that is numbing. It's a numbing effect, and it's a trick of the enemy to make you think that the more you do or you don't do, it's gonna go away, and it's a lie. It's a
No, it
lie
doesn't.
from the
It
enemy.
it it doesn't go away.
Mm-mm.
And then work a roadblock number 3, I think is the biggest. We give our power away to fear. Fear is a monster. I mean,
Yeah,
fear, what is it? False,
Evidence
fa
appearing real.
Imperial and real. It's just
Yeah.
pure and real. So could you talk about fear and how you got I think you said you use breathing and
Yes. So, I was independent to a flaw before I met Mark, made all my decisions. Then we started making decisions together. And when he died, I felt like whether they were small decisions or big ones, that I didn't know if I could or should make them because what if it was wrong or what if it was bad or whatever. So the inability to make decisions that I had made before easily
Mhm,
um, was based on fear. But I'm going to read one part of it. It says, um, fear is the biggest roadblock. It certainly was for me. Seemingly insurmountable fear often immobilized me. Although I was confident and independent before Mark died, I felt insecure, vulnerable, and exposed after he left. But here's what
mhm,
God taught me: fear is a liar. It's a
mhm,
stalker demon whose mission is to cripple, paralyze, and snuff out your faith.
mhm,
Because the enemy is like, well, if you stay afraid, then you don't trust God. If you
mhm,
stay afraid, you don't take the steps he's telling you to take. If you
mhm,
stay afraid, then you're stuck and paralyzed in the thing that led to that fear in the first place. So you are giving all your power to the enemy instead of
mhm,
giving it to God. And God's like, again, First Timothy 1:7 was a verse God kept giving me over and over again. And the other one, and I can't remember where it is, where it's like perfect love casts out fear.
fears,
So when we know that God loves us perfectly, when we know that we are rooted and grounded deeply in his love and that we have his protection, his covering, his provision, his care, fear has zero authority and zero opportunity to cripple us at all. But we have to trust him instead of the things that we see. The other thing that he showed me too was that fear is sometimes determined by the things that we see or that we want to see that aren't materializing. But the Lord showed me that when we look through his eyes, then we see things in the spirit that we don't see with our physical eyes. And it reminded me of, and I think it was Elisha, when there was these enemies coming after the Israelites, and Elisha and his servant were in this room, and the servant looked through the window and he sees all of these
mhm.
chariots coming out.
There it is.
He's
Mhm,
terrified. And Elisha just started praying and he's like, God, open the eyes of my servant. And when he did, he said, let him see. And when he did, the servant looked again, and over and above these enemies coming after him, these hordes of enemies, he saw chariots of fire, angels, provision coming to protect them. So we have to look through our spiritual eyes. We can't just depend on the things that we see with our
mhm,
eyes.
mhm. In the book I wrote called The Accidents, I talked about the second time around, and
Mm,
you talk about that. You refer to Deuteronomy 2, 3 that says, "Then the Lord said to me, you have made your way around this,
yes.
country long enough.
Yes.
Now turn north."
North, yes, yes.
I
The Israelites stayed in the wilderness for 40 years.
years.
And it was a journey that should have taken them no longer than 11 days, but in that period, of course, the Lord killed off all of the first generation who, were filled with idolatry and apostasy and all of that, but even when they got to the promised land, they still were ignoring him.
That's
So,
right.
it's like, you can go round and round and round. A friend of mine calls it circling the drain,
Mhm.
keeping on
Yeah,
circling the
yeah,
drain, and
yep.
ultimately, you're just gonna flush down, or
Mhm,
you can stop, again, look up,
mhm,
see God, go north, stop going in the direction that you're
mhm,
going is gonna lead
mhm,
to destruction. And so that verse was powerful for me. He's like, "You know what? You've made your way around this
mhm.
desert, this storm, this darkness, this field long enough, and going round and round and round and round in circles is just gonna keep you going round and round and round. So, you're gonna decide that you wanna move forward or you won't. But if you
Mhm.
decide you're gonna move forward, it's time to take my hand and go north."
It's just so amazing. I'm gonna read a little paragraph I wrote in my book, and it reflects what you just said. It says, "What does this mean when you proceed around the same mountain again,
Mm,
encountering the same situation, different day, same manna?" I heard us say yeah, you heard me say the word manna, which literally means, "What is it?"
yes.
So the Israelites took 40 years to make a 11-day trip while dining on a delicacy called what is it?
They didn't recognize it. They're looking for meat, they're looking for all the things, and God's like, "I'm gonna give you exactly what you need to sustain you."
God has a sense of humor. So it's then I said it's almost laughable,
It
but it's
is.
also reflective. How many moments, days, and years has it taken you? It's
Yeah.
like
The other thing I love that you wrote that, Deborah, because, the what is it, the definition of it, God gave them enough to sustain them for 1
for
day at a
one
time,
day. Mhm.
for 6 days, and then on the 6th day, they were to
It would
gather
rot.
and for 2 days because the Sabbath, they couldn't gather at all.
Mm,
And
mhm.
so, again, in our self-righteousness, our pride, our greed, our wanting to have it all, we're like, "No, no, no, no. I can't just have enough for 1 day. I need it all for, like, the whole week and the whole month." And
That's right.
but
That's
I'm
right.
only giving you enough for 1 day. That's all you need to be
Mhm,
sustained because my
mhm,
mercies are new every morning. So I'm
mhm,
going to replenish it, and I'm gonna feed you, and I'm gonna provide for you, and I'm gonna lead you tomorrow just as well as I did today. But we
mhm,
wanna rely on ourselves.
mhm.
And he's like, "Keep on doing that, and you see where that'll lead, to destruction."
Mhm. I mean, it's just amazing, but, it's almost like Satan set humans to do that because you're listen to an interview after the Super Bowl, the best and supposed to be the best and more competitive game of the year, and the first question is, "So, do you think you're gonna repeat next year?" It's
Yes,
like, "Okay, okay." Um, one of
yeah.
the things I really liked about this book when you talked about keys to freedom, girl. I was crying when I was reading this. And you talked about 5 keys that will unite your freedom.
Yes.
And the first key you said, "It's okay not to not be okay."
Yep.
Could you elaborate on that?
Yes. So, again, and I kind of alluded to it,
Mhm,
earlier,
mhm,
I used to think that because I was in leadership and because I was teaching and doing all these things, that I had to give this illusion or this affront that everything was fine with me,
mhm,
and that's a lie. I also know that when Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, the night before his arrest, he and the Holy Spirit and the Father had come up with this plan of salvation and redemption before the world was created.
Right,
And yet,
right.
Jesus in his humanity In the Garden of Gethsemane, what did he ask the Father? If there's another way, can we do it differently? Because I don't really want to do this. But he surrendered his will to God's. But before he did that, his anguish was so intense that his sweat was like drops of blood. For the first time in my life, even though I've read that over and over and over again, and I've anguished over it, and I saw the Passion of the Christ,
Mhm.
I related to it. In that, if Jesus wasn't okay, before he did the thing that they had planned before the foundation of the world, I absolutely had permission not to be. That I could be raw, I could be icky, I could be angry, I could be hurting, I could be questioning, I could be all the things. And all of the things that I was feeling, God was like, bring it to me. My shoulders are broad, and they are
Mhm.
not I that God we have this perception that we can't be real in front of God.
God, right.
Knows who we are better than we do. So he's
That's
like,
right.
"Bring everything that you're feeling and experiencing to me, and I'm not always gonna answer your questions, or I'm not gonna answer them the way that you want, but at least we're dialoguing, and you're fellowshipping with me, and we're in relationship, and we're building intimacy." So if Jesus wasn't okay, then and he knew what the outcome was gonna be. He knew
Mhm,
that his death and his death was not gonna end in death, that he was
mhm,
gonna overcome death, and that overcoming was gonna unite us to the Father, but he
mhm.
was dreading the junk that came before that, and he was real and raw with his Father in that garden, over and over and over again, and we can be too.
Well, to be truthful, it's kinda reminds me of my son raising kids. You get a lot of heart lessons. So,
Yes,
he would okay, so he was the only son, and somebody had drew on the stained glass with a permanent marker. So
right.
I'm going, "So who did that?" And he closes his eyes. That's kinda like us trying to not be truthful for the God. He
Yes,
closed his eyes, and I would stand there a few minutes, and I said, "When you open them, there's still markings on that stained glass, and I'm still here." So
yes, 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 yes.
and that kinda reminds me of trying to be fake in front of God when your heart is breaking, and
Yes,
and I really like that these are things to unite your freedom.
that's right.
The second thing you talked about is trust doesn't require understanding, and that's right, I remember I was listening to Joyce Meyer one time, and she says, "It is a sin to overthink," and to think, she said, "To think." And I'm like, "What?" Being a PhD, "What do you mean it's a
Right.
sin to think?" Rah, you know? But I notice is if I have a strong reaction, there's either 1 or 2 things are true. One, it is so true that it's bothering my ego, or number 2, it's unfair, it's not true at all. So, it was the first one because you kinda sit, it's almost like a dog chasing his tail, You kinda sit and you think, "Okay, if I woulda done this, and then this woulda happened, and what if I do this, and I do," you're trying to understand
Yes,
why, and I actually uploaded a podcast called Questions That God Doesn't Answer a lot of times, and why is one of them, and when is one of them. Why? Because if he answered why, number 1, since his thoughts and his understandings about
yes,
our thoughts and understanding, you wouldn't understand the answer, and that would just frustrate you. So you
yes,
would have unbelief on top of frustration. So God doesn't do that, and you say relinquishing the need to understand, the need to control the outcome because you trust in whatever the outcome is, that God is gonna do something greater, more than what you can imagine, and I
yes.
thought that was real, and I wanna ask you a personal question right here
Sure,
on air.
sure.
Did you read my book before you wrote this one?
No, I didn't even know you wrote a book before I wrote this one. I'm
I mean, it's because this is just this had me weeping because on the next page you talk about the Bible verse in Psalms 46:10, "Be still and know that I am God." Okay,
yes,
so when my son was shot, I took a long walk. I didn't even know the area. I would walk like 15 miles. I told you that's what I'll do is numb it by walking. And I said, "Be still and know that I am God. Be
mm,
still." And I would say that maybe an hour, and then I would say, "Be still and know." I would remove a word and I would repeat it over and over and over again, and people would walk by me, thought I was crazy 'cause I was crying and repeating until I got to be. See, and if you it's just amazing. If you remove every word in that verse, it speaks to your soul that sometimes we need to be still so we can hear the Father, so we can
Yeah.
hear the Father. And
Yeah.
because in our businessness, we can't hear the Father, so we need to
Right.
be still. So can you talk about that, being still and how that was hard when you were in the middle of fear and pain and anger and all the above?
Yeah, so let me just preface that by saying that, all the busy, 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 busy that I had done before Mark died, and all the leadership and the ownership of all of the things and helping everybody and doing all the things for people, in those early, early days of grief, probably for that first year, I couldn't do that anymore. I was overwhelmed. I couldn't take on anybody else's stuff
Mhm,
because I couldn't even bear my own.
mhm,
Um, but in that moment, in all those moments, again, Psalm 46:10, which is a life verse, God brought it to even
mhm. Yes.
greater
Mhm,
meaning than before. He didn't create us to do, he created us to be his
mhm,
kids. And
mhm,
out of our being, out of our relationship with him are the things that he asks us to do. So I had to flip the script because I was doing, doing, doing all the time and thinking that the more I did, the holier I was, or the more sanctified I was, or the better Christian I was. And God's like, all of that is filthy rags. I want you to learn to be my daughter. I want you to learn to crawl up in my lap. So the Psalm, I'm sorry, Isaiah 41, I think 10, says, "Don't fear because I am with you."
mhm.
I am is his name, right?
I am.
So when
Mhm,
we think about the fact that
mhm,
the beyond the fact that fear
mhm,
is an enemy dispatched by the enemy, and it's an emotion, there is some verse that says, "Don't fear, don't be afraid, I am with
mhm,
you, I'm never
mhm,
gonna leave you," at least
mhm,
165 times in the Bible.
mhm.
So, that's one for every day of the year, right? And so
Right.
the reason why we don't have to fear is why? Because he is with us.
With us. Mhm,
Order to
mhm,
experience him with us, we have to be still. Going 1,000 miles a minute, taking on all the things, doing everything everyone asks you to do, getting in your head that, "I can't sit still because I'm antsy," those are
mm,
lies.
mhm,
They're counter to the kingdom principles and very much a part of the culture that we live in, and God's like, "I didn't make you for this world. I made you to be set apart for me." So that means that where the world is telling you to go and do and be and do all the things and be
mhm,
busy, I'm telling you to sit still in my presence so we can commune together. Because when you do, you get my peace that surpasses understanding. You get rooted and grounded in my love. You understand that your identity is not based
mhm.
on anything that you
Mm,
do. You
that's
know
right.
he's gonna provide for you. You know all the things. You can't know that unless we sit still in his
Still
presence.
right, right. And, one of the things was, "Be still and know, be still and know I
Yes,
am, be still
yes.
and know I am." See, that's when when Pharaoh said, "Who sent you?" Moses said, "I am."
That's right. That's right. And he didn't have to put anything else after that. Why?
That's
Because
right, that's
he
right,
is everything
that's
that
right,
we need or
that's
think we
right.
wanna need. He's everywhere. And be still and know him. The only way we know him intimately is by sitting still in his presence. Yes, worshiping. Yes, studying the word. Yes, serving. But aside from all of that, you can push all of that aside,
Right,
and when we sit still in his presence, we
right,
know him. He
that's
says,
right.
his word says that he who seeks me finds me.
Me, right,
We cannot
right.
find him unless we
You
seek
seek
him,
him.
and we can't seek him unless we turn all the other crap off and
Right,
focus on him. We just can't.
right. It's just it's just absolutely amazing because, as I said before we became on air, I was going through my book, like a professor, looking to do things I could parallel, and every chapter, I'm just like, "Did she read this?" And the reason why I wanted to ask that, because I actually want my soul to hear it.
Mm,
You did not read my book before you wrote it, because, see, Satan will play that back in my, "Well, you know." She probably read your book.
I didn't even know you wrote a book when I first
I
started
know that, but I knew the answer, but my soul's ear had to hear it. Do you guys hear what I'm saying?
But
I
you
had
know
to
what
hear it.
you know
Yeah.
what you know what that says to me though, Deborah?
Mm,
Because we've talked about being kindred spirits and some of the very similar and yet different hard things that we've gone through and the things that the Lord has taught us. It just shows to me that again, God is consistent with his kids and the
right.
messages that he gives to his kids to set them free and to become close and intimate with him. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. So, like, I'll even listen to, Pastor Stephen Furtick sometimes, and I'm like, "Did you read that chapter in my book?"
That's right.
Yeah, and it's because he's consistent with
That's
his
right,
kids. His
right.
messages are the same. How it gets flushed out is different because we're all different, and yet his word is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So, the things that he has for us, the divine secrets, the divine nuggets of gold and wisdom,
Mhm.
he's gonna drop on his kids that are
That's right.
experiencing similar things.
That's
So it
right.
doesn't surprise me. I mean, I've even read other books since I wrote mine that I went, "Oh my gosh, that's exactly what I said in my book."
That's
Or,
right.
it's a similar thing with a little
That's
bit
right.
different twist.
That's right.
So I'm not surprised at that.
Mm,
And,
mhm, mhm.
in that, there's no competition in the kingdom. There's no
No,
any of that.
no, no,
So it's like
no.
we can
Mm-mm.
actually take each
Mhm.
other's journeys and
That's
things
right.
that is given to us and prop them up and go, look what God did in Deborah's life, and look what he did in Vanessa's, and look what he did in
Mhm,
this person's,
mhm,
and look what he can do in yours to
mhm.
give people hope that God is going to turn every bit of pain into power. He's going to transform all the
Mhm.
deserts into
That's right.
laughter,
That's right.
and
Into
he's going to create
streams.
beauty
Yeah.
out of ashes. He
At
will
beauty out of
every
ashes.
time.
Well, Vanessa, I know we only have an hour, but I am not through with your girlfriend because there are 3 other things that could set you free, and then you go into action plans. So, we'll have to schedule, this and continue this conversation at a later time.
That
So
sounds awesome.
so guys, I just want you to be blessed by the conversations that we just had and know that God is creating the pathway for you and he will
Amen.
send pathway allies, pathway buddies to keep
Yes.
you on that narrow path that not many people find. That's scary.
Amen.
Not
Amen,
many people
amen.
find. Well, God bless guys. Until next time. My hope is that this journey has been fruitful and you're able to take it and apply it to your life. Until next time, tune in again for the Prisoners of Hope podcast. God bless.